action. Yeah, spiritual intuition. That's really what I do. It's
That's
not
much better. It doesn't tie you up with all that woo-woo stuff.
Madame Lasagnas, like Jim said.
Madame Lasagna.
Yes.
I'm having coffee with Anne Armstrong, an old friend of mine from excellent days. Anne is a beloved psychic and has a pretty impeccable reputation as a seer, which is a difficult line of work.
Right, yes.
How are you enjoying Prague?
I'm enjoying it very much. It's one of the most beautiful cities I have ever seen. I'm very impressed. And needless to say, the vibes are very intense. You know, if you tune into it psychically and get the full impact of what's here, it's a tremendous feeling. I've had similar experiences in Europe, in Rome, but when I went through the Jewish cemetery, that was quite a thing for me. It's almost like you can just feel all the pain and the sorrow and deprivation that those poor people went to. So.
Yes, at Prague, it's really a paradox. You know, it was said that under communism, it was the gloomiest city in Europe.
Yeah.
And yet, it seems pretty vibrant. Do you have a notion of how this situation is moving here? Or what sort of a future do you envision for the Czechs?
Well, I feel especially Prague is like an open door, a gateway that I feel is allowing people to finally express, you know, their deep feelings, how they felt, without feeling, you know, being censored in any way. So I have, you know, it's just like all of a sudden a whole other part of their life is coming into perspective, and certainly I feel the sense of spirituality here. To everyone that you talk to, everybody's interested. You can't communicate fluently, but you certainly feel from them that they're hungry for this, and that it's certainly a rare opportunity for them.
Well, when you look into the past of Czechoslovakia, certainly it's been a long, hard road to hoe.
Right.
Can you look toward the future and see any difference, or is it the same story again?
I think there will remain an underlying sameness because we're used to certain ways of being. But I also feel that the more the more adventuresome individuals, the more knowing, you know, like sense of deep knowing individuals, will begin to see everything very differently. And I look for them to become the leaders for the rest of the people. Like to say, you experience it this way, but I'm experiencing it this way, and let's go from there. So I do feel very hopeful, and I'm aware how beautiful these people are. I just get weepy when I look at that. They're just radiant, beautiful people that have been oppressed and are now finally having an opportunity to be liberated. And it's, you know, slow. Change comes very slowly, but I feel that it will happen. That it's going to happen for them, and it's time, and they deserved it. They've worked for it. It's like their bad karma may be over with.
It feels like it may be over.
Yeah.
At least for the Bohemian part of Czechoslovakia.
That's right.
I'm loath to ask this, but perverse curiosity overcomes me. What about our own sad union?
Well, this is one of the things that anytime I go into a deep space, I take a look at. And even though we see like hopeful rays of light, you know, in our part of the world, I'm also seeing the other side. And since on occasion I'm able to tune into a much deeper level, like a more esoteric level, of seeing, I'm aware that we have a certain time frame, and the time is kind of running out, so that unless there is a big switch, to owning our power and our spirituality and our light, that we're on the brink of disaster. And this really concerns me a lot. I know just the earthquake activity in California has been something, and I look for more.
So you're not talking about political or economic disaster.
No.
You're talking about something more an act of God,
Yeah,
almost.
that's right. Because it seems that what brings people together is when we have disasters, when we have a need, to support each other. And I would hate to see it come to that, to that place where we actually have a tremendous disaster, illness, or for instance, like AIDS becomes even more prevalent, where we will have to band together. And
well, some people feel that the undoing of the Soviet Union can really be traced to the Chernobyl meltdown.
I think it can. Everything has a result.
Well, now, didn't someone here at this conference, this seems to me like a recurring theme. It's the idea that things are going to get worse before they get better, because there needs to be some kind of shock of awakening.
That's what I feel, is that somehow, as long as we're comfortable, we're very complacent, but when all of a sudden our life is threatened, and just our general environment is threatened, then we rise up in arms, we become very activated. And I'm just hoping that somehow we won't have to come to that point before we will all see, we will all see the same picture together and do something about it. And I'm always asking myself, what can you do about it? And so Jim and I, of course, spread the word. Under the guise of teaching people to be intuitive, we slip a lot of the spiritual teaching into it, in the sense of individual responsibility. But ultimately, I think that what needs to happen, I think one of the speakers mentioned this, was that somehow we do have that essence within us, that power within us, that I feel is equivalent to the atom bomb. I feel that the atom bomb was simply an externalization of, what we have inside of us, and that what we have inside of us is greater, and that if we can have awareness of that part of the self and use it, project it out there, create more light, perhaps we will invite some friendlier forces.
So really, it seems like what you're saying is intuition is simply an opening to what is already there.
What is already there, and this is the reason that we do stress our intuition workshops, is because it's like it gives you a lens to look through. It's a way of getting into a deeper, larger part of yourself, but you can also use it, for exploring other dimensions of consciousness, personally. Not just read about it, but personally. And this is what is fascinating.
Do you think that, it's clear we're all motivated to try and do something to try and make the world better,
right.
But what I worry about is there enough urgency?
I don't think there is yet.
So
unfortunately, I don't think there is.
We're still half asleep.
Yes, and I feel that one of these days Mother Nature may get very impatient, shake her back, and we'll get it. And perhaps we need it. Perhaps we have to be, done that too. We have to be done too before we wake up and say, okay, what's important in my life? Because I feel so many people have lost sense of personal responsibility, having fun, and all the outer things are what are so important, rather than the true meaning for their life, and that is their life script, and to find out who they are and how they can get there and how they can contribute.
So people have been distracted by the surface of things.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. And that really concerns me, but I say I don't know what more we can do about it, except do what you can on an individual basis. But we are in a crisis.
Well, with the collapse of communism now, there are no competing value systems other than the work, spend, stuff, fun approach to things. I mean, whatever one thinks of communism, a lot of traditional culture was preserved in a kind of economic deep freeze. I mean, I'm sure Czechoslovakia is headed toward more comfort, more consumer electronics, but are they headed toward happiness?
Well, that's what I've been looking at, all of these new things, these new choices that they have, and all of a sudden you're free and you can buy and you can imitate the United States, and that's a concern, you know, because some of the values that I find here are very deep and ancient, and I feel have a tremendous amount of create stability in a society, and they may be taken away, and that is a concern.
Sold out
for something different, right?
Yes, well, in a way, these people are no different from rainforest Indians or Tibetans or whatever of cultural worth they have. We will package and export, and everything else will be devalued.
That's what happens. I would like to say a little bit about intuition.
Please.
Because I feel that most people, you know, you read about it or you hear the people, hint at it, and you know that you have this ability inside of you, like you have the perfect plan inside of you, and yet there isn't, an easy way to get to it, except through arduous years and years and years of meditation. So what we try to do is to do it in a more playful way, to literally trick people into finding out that, hey, they can really see, they can really know without ever having the other person say anything. And I feel like it's a way of getting people into that space so that later on there will be curiosity, there will be a lot of curiosity, and the curiosity may lead them to a deeper search, of themselves. And that's our gig.
So really, what you're couching as intuition is self-awareness.
Exactly. Self-growth, self-awareness, appreciation of that part of yourself.
But it's much easier to rope people in if you sell it as a power
it's
rather
more
than
glamorous.
a cure.
It's more glamorous, and but the thing is to get the audience and then talk to them.
To get them to take the
Get them to take it and to realize that somehow, it's in there. It's in there. And I feel that the way we do it in a kind of playful way, but also we don't, glamorize it. We don't say there's certain steps that have to be taken. But most of the time, the bottom line, we say, do it. And they don't challenge, they don't question, and they do it. And this has been very, very gratifying for me, because out of that has come a lot of people in the world now that came to that part of themselves, like their task that they gave themselves, if there's such a thing. And they're out doing it because they found out that they had this thing inside of us, this quality of restlessness, and all of a sudden there's a form for it.
So it sounds like a lot of what you do is give permission to people to feel what is all there.
Yeah, and in the private work that I do, what I usually go for, what are the blocks that are keeping that person from realizing their greater potential? And so in a sense, it's a combination of psychological work as well as spirituality and self-responsibility.
Well, and I think you provide an example.
I try.
Well, you do a good job.
Well, I think I provide an example in that for the first about 25 or 30 years of my life, I was very ill, and I didn't know what the nature of my illness was. Nobody, Mayo Clinic, and the fine doctors could not find out. And actually, what was happening to me is that I was suppressing my intuitive ability, my psychic ability.
Trying to fit in.
Yeah, well, I didn't know I had it. I started this business a long time ago, so I was kind of a closet psychic. But as a child, I had these feelings and these knowings, but there was nowhere, no gurus around, no way to check it out. And until, the law of synchronicity began to operate in my life. And I found the right therapist, and I did some regression work and found out some of the past lives that apparently were still reaching into the present and affecting me. And the outcome was that I healed myself of everything that I had wrong with me. So that's one of the things that I try to push. Like, what is your illness teaching you? What is it trying to tell you? How can you get past it? And once you get past it, once you get rid of the blocks, then the real stuff that you're here to do or inspired to do will come out. And that's exactly what happened to me. Before that, I felt powerless.
So because you had this as a direct experience, it gave you great conviction to speak to other people about it.
That's right, that it's possible. Not all illnesses, are connected with a spiritual emergence, but a lot of them are. It's the way that our soul somehow gets our attention through pain.
Through distorting the physical form.
Right, until we ask enough questions and say what's going on, and when we're ready to hear, it's there. It's all there.
Well, maybe we could make a hopeful metaphor and expand that to the global level.
Yes, that's what I hope for.
And say, the earth is trying to get our attention. I mean, surely all of nature must be crying out at this moment.
I have, in my intuitive state, tuned into Mother Nature, because you can tune into any form, any system. And what she has said to me is that I'm sad. I'm very, very sad. It's almost like, I'm being destroyed, being consumed in some very negative ways. And that's not my function. Mm-hmm. My function is to provide a wonderful living space for us to grow in.
So generally, are you hopeful about human fate, or do you
I have a lot of faith in individuals. I really do, because I feel that once we wake up, we're movers and we do things. So I think the trick is, how do you wake more people up all at once?
So the real situation is that the real struggle to save the planet has not yet begun.
I don't think so.
We're still drifting.
We're still drifting. We still haven't gotten the point that we are in a tremendous crisis.
And once we get everybody awakened to that and focused, this is exactly what I think, that it's going to take some terrible thing. 100,000 people could die in a hot afternoon in Mexico City.
It's no doubt about it. And that is a constant concern of mine. But I'm very gratified about all these. What is the thing that happened on New Year's Day, or what was where all the people band together and prayed at the same time. Mm-hmm. All of that I feel is like wonderful light energy that is being sent up. In other words, because I feel that the higher forces cannot reach down to us. They can only come down to a certain level. So we have to elevate ourselves to meet them, have some kind of a meeting ground. And if we can get there, the whole thing can be shifted in a matter of hours or minutes. But,
H.G. Wells said, history is a race between education and catastrophe. Right. And it looks to me like it's going to be a photo finish.
I think it will be, yeah. But I still have faith that somehow, we're heartful enough and loving enough and caring enough to see the real picture.
That there must be a purpose in the human adventure. It isn't just.
It isn't just an adventure. No, it is. But the goal is enlightenment, you see, and I'm not sure that we've gotten that message that clearly yet, that clearly defined.
Well, it's hard to tell whether we're collectively moving toward some kind of global enlightenment, or we're simply moving toward ruination of everything.
Well, the whole thing is attitude. It depends upon how we feel, what we do, what we think in the next few years as to what the outcome will be.
Mm-hmm. Where you say attitude, I would say it's language.
Language, yeah.
You can't live a future you can't describe.
That's right.
So we have to stimulate the heart and the imagination.
The mind has to have a target that it understands, and I think as yet we have not gotten that target. Little pockets of people here and there, of course, have it.
But no general vision
No
has emerged.
No, that's right.
Well, thank you very much
You're
for
very
stopping
welcome.
by.
Yeah,
This was lots
I'm
of
glad.
fun.
I'm glad I did this. Yes.
Good. Well, wait till you
Okay.
see it on the telly. Hopefully, change a few minds. If you
I hope
change
so.
even one mind.
Well, I've managed to do a lot of that.
Thanks
Good,
very
dear.
much.
You're
Anne.
welcome. Now I can.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
they have to
I'm always running off with.
fix the plumbing.
I still can have that. That's
You
mine.
can still have that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's yours. This is a high budget operation. You're looking at your profit and residuals.
Oh, is that it? Well, okay. It's the best food I've had since I got here.